So we have to discuss what is called as a swings. Right. So initially, when a Java applications came into an existence, that means when a Java programming came into an existence, so GUI applications was a main requirement, right? So nobody was that much interested to write everything as an instruction, right? So if you are a lending application for others to use, then obviously that particular application should have a user interface, right? So now what I mean to say you is, say for example, in your folder, if you want to search for a particular file, right? So are you going to write a program for that? Like in a C drive, you search for some file called as a xyz.txt. No, right? We are not going to do that one. What you will be doing is you will be opening that particular D drive or a C drive. So on the top, you will be having some place for a searching for a particular element. Once you type a something there, whichever means whichever the file matches to that particular keyword, so whether everything is coming to you, that means everything is displaying in front of you whichever matches to that particular keyword, right? What I mean to say is, when you know the logic, right? So directly writing a logic or directly telling someone to write a logic for this particular requirement, it will be a very tough. But if you are providing a GUI, if you are providing a graphical user interface and giving a access, say for example, you will be convenient in performing a transactions in a bank where it has got a beautiful GUI, right? So if you don't have a beautiful GUI, obviously you cannot reach a audience itself. That means you cannot reach a customers only, right? So the basic intention, so means basically whenever we are talking about a programming language, so that particular language should give a support for a graphical user interface to be designed, right? So to develop a Windows based applications, right? So initially Java has provided one class, right? So that particular class was called as AWT. Okay, AWT stands for Abstract Window Toolkit, right? So name itself is saying some toolkit, right? So some toolkit which allows you to develop applications, especially for a Windows, right? So the name was given as Abstract Window Toolkit. Okay. Once Java has introduced, means long before Java has introduced first AWT. So after AWT, they felt like there are some drawbacks with respect to AWT, and the classes are very lengthy, and you don't have that much flexibility to use components of that particular GUI. So they have slightly modified that particular AWT, and they come up with what is called as Swing, right? So this is a brief history about a swing, and why you required to study this particular swing, right? Basic objective of going with the swing is to provide a graphical user interface, right? So develop a full-fledged application. That was basic intention. To fulfill this particular basic intention or a basic goal, previously there was something called as a AWT, and there were a few disadvantages with respect to AWT. So they went with what is called as Swing, right? So are we not using a AWT now? No, that is not the thing. We are using a AWT, but what we are doing is we have extended that particular AWT. AWT has been extended by adding a few more functionalities and a few more classes, and that has resulted into what is called as a swings, right? Shall we proceed? If you are clear with the introduction, then we will see what is a swings and what are the different components in a swing, how to develop a one GUI application using a Java, and we will see how that will be a different, or how that will be a fascinating when compared to a other programming language. Yes, thanks for the response. Let us proceed further. Swing is a collection of, one second. Huh. So basically, as I said, this is basically created, Swing classes has been basically created to provide you a set of beautiful visual components. Swing is built on the foundation of the AWT, right? So what is the abbreviation of AWT? Abstract Window Toolkit, right? So intention of AWT was to develop a Windows application. Now Swing has been built on that particular foundation, right? Because of the limitations of AWT, Swing has included as a part of Java Foundation classes, right? So what is the advantages of your swings over AWT, right? So swing components are lightweight because some of the functionalities have been shifted. We are not going in detail like what are there with respect to AWT and what are there with respect to swing. Just we will remember. Means there were drawbacks with respect to AWT, especially the classes sizes and using the methodologies and all. So they were very lengthy with respect to AWT. Swings are written entirely in a Java and do not map directly to a platform specific peers. That means when you have a developed application, no need to worry about in which underlying operating system you are going to put this particular application, right? So no worry, so means no worries with respect to portability of the application when you are going with the swings, right? So as I already told you, this is a lightweight component, do not translate into a native peers. The look and feel of each component is determined by a swing, not by underlying operating system, right? So no need to worry about how this particular application look in a Windows Explorer. So means what I meant to say, Windows 10 or a Windows Home Edition, in a different versions of a Windows, how this particular look and feel will look, so means will appear. No need to worry about that particular underlying operating system. You can easily develop applications using a swing, right? Okay. First, we will see a simple example on a swing. Then we will discuss what are the further points that are there with respect to swing, right? So is that fine? And basically, what you have to remember is in this particular application, we are going to develop one window kind of application. That means till now you have seen output in a command prompt, right? We used to compile a file and then we used to run the file. When we run the file, it was showing output there itself in a command prompt, right? So now what we will be doing is output will not be in a command prompt. Our output will be some window, right? So some GUI we will be getting. Clear? So initially, as it is a basic example, we'll not be putting so many components onto our window. We will keep it a simple. We will just see how a window will be appeared with respect to swings. That means using the swings, how you can open a particular window, right? So expecting a small acknowledgement, shall we proceed with an example? Okay, so let's proceed. 1 second. I have a file over here, not done anything much in this particular file. Just imported a few packages and made one class called as a swing demo. So within a swing demo, you have a main function, right? So now, when your class means this is a normal Java file, Java program itself, right? So basically, your class name will be matching with respect to file name, and you have something called as a main method, right? Now, but my intention is not to work with this particular normal Java file. Rather, I wanted to make this one as a swing, right? So how to make that one? That means intention is clear now. I wanted to work with the GUI components, right? So when you want to work with the GUI components, what you have to do is you have to extend this class, right? You have other ways also, but I just wanted to keep it as simple. I'm just telling you to extend this particular class with a class called as jframe, right? See, with respect to application development, you have to remember 2 points. 2 points. What are those 2 points? Is I already told you we are developing a one Windows application now. You will be getting one window now, right? On that window, you will be having some elements placed, some elements, right? First, you need to specify what should be that particular frame. That means once you specify the background frame, on that particular background, you can place elements, right? So first you should have a layout, outer layout. So on that particular outer layout, you can put some elements, right? In our example, what we will do is we will just have a one window. So on that window, we will place one common small button, right? So just to see how the things will be working, right? So I already told you this is a basic example. Okay. Now I told you that I'm interested in putting a button onto a window. So let me create one button object, right? So with respect to swings, if I want to create a button, I need to use a class called as JButton, and I am creating an object called as B, right? So intention of creating this particular object is I wanted to have a button on my window. Then I'll be having a constructor of a swing demo. Intimate me if I'm doing any typing mistakes, right? So once means from the main function, I'll be just creating object of a swing demo. So once I create the object, then I should have a window for me, right? So what should be the size of a window? We don't know, right? So we have to specify that. How to specify? With respect to present object, set size. Use this function, specify what should be the dimension of that particular window that you are expecting. I will say something like a 600 into 400, right? So this is the dimension of my window. Again, this will be with respect to pixel values, right? So how many pixels, width and a height, right? So that will be a size of a window that I require. Okay, on this particular window size, I require what is called as a button. Okay, I have a reference object created, so I'll be just using that particular B, right? So what this B should contain? B should have new, right? So what was the class I said? JButton class, right? So what should be the text on that particular button? What you are expecting, right? So this is the text I'm expecting on that particular button. Clear so far? This is the size of a window. On that particular window, I have just a created object of a button, right? I have not a place in that one. I didn't place this particular button on this particular window. I just specified this is a window and this is a button. I need to put this particular button on this particular window, right? Following, I hope, right? So when you want to place that particular element, that means now I wanted to place that particular button onto a window. So I'll be using what is called as, for the button, that means for this button I have a function called add, right? So where exactly I need to add, right? So I'll be using on a present window, on a present window you add, that means on a present window you add what has to be added, whatever the button I have created that I need to add, right? So here this refers to the background, right? So for that particular background we have to specify what is called as a layout. Also layout in the sense how you are expecting the components to be placed on the window. Layout means how you are expecting components, components in the sense button, all those controls, right? How you are expecting components to be placed in window, right? So this is nothing but your layout. I'm not using any specific layout for a time being, so we have a different types of a layout. We will see further examples, right? Then okay, for the button also you can set bounds, that means what should be the dimension of a button, right? So if I'm just saying a button, okay, so first let us run it as it is, let us see how the things will be working, so then we can modify by adding a few attributes for the button, right? So now everything we have configured, that means we have said that window should be something like this. Set size is for the window, this is for window. Okay, so this is what I can say, logical button. That means it will not be visible for you until you place that particular button onto a window. Okay, so I have not specified any size for the button, how what should be the size of a button and all. So what I will do is, whatever the things we have done until now, everything will be a logical. Physical existence means appearance of these things will not be there. So to make all these things to appear, I have to set one small property. So that property is nothing but on a present window, I need to set visible value as true. Okay, right. So now, yes, this is the size of a window. Virtually, I have created one button, but not a place of that particular button. Here, I'm adding a that particular button. Layout I'm setting is, and I'm saying that don't use any specific layout. So let it be a default layout. Okay. So whatever the things I have done, I'm making everything as a visible now. Okay. So now, where you have written all these statements, where did we wrote all these statements? All these statements were written in your class, this particular string demo, right? So in a main function, you just need to create object of that particular string demo. So when you are creating object, will it be executing a constructor implicitly? Yes, obviously, it will be executing a constructor implicitly, right? So shall we check what will be output of this particular program? Let me share a complete screen because output will be popping out. That means it will be showing outside. Okay. Let me compile. Compiled fine. Yes. Are we able to see the button? Not able to see. Where did it went? Oh, it's not visible because we didn't specify what should be the bounds of that particular button, right? So let us add one more statement. We will specify what should be the bounds of that particular button. So later we will see whether that particular button is visible or not. Now, so b dot set bounds. Okay, so let us give us some values for that particular button. I will say 200 pixel. We will alter these things and let's just cross check what exactly these values refer to, right? I'm just giving you some random value for a time being. No errors. 1 second. Visible. Good question. Good question. See, set bounds will specify where you want your button on the window, right? If I'm saying 200, 200, 260, so you consider this particular corner point, right? So this point, it's like a coordinate values, XY directions. That will be your set bounds. Bounds means where you want to place the button, right? Set size means what should be the window size. Set bounds will specify what where exactly you want to place the button, right? So that is a set bounds. Set size is nothing but window size. What should be the window size that you wanted to have. Set bounds, see, these values will actually take, this is the x coordinate, this is your y coordinate, okay? And third value will say width, that means what should be the width of a button. And fourth value says what should be the height of a button. Okay, so this is your set bound method. Okay, I'm just writing arguments. So this is your x coordinate value, this is y coordinate value. Now what should be the width, right? So that is your third argument. And what should be the height, right? So this is your fourth argument. Sir, we can assign a text to the button directly with any methods like set a text. I need to just cross check. Yeah, I think it's possible because most of the times we will not be hard coding the things. We will be using the properties. That means I'll show you. I just wanted to give you a overview of how simple example will be there. Later we will see how can we develop these kind of applications using Eclipse. That means when you are developing applications for a just putting a one particular button, if you are spending this much of a time, obviously that is not a better way, because each employee will be, means if you are joining for the company, obviously the employees will be paid based on the number of working hours he will be spending on a particular project, right? Now if this person is taking this much hard coding, we have written so many lines, right? So for a hard coding, how many number of lines we have written? Almost some 20 lines, right? So if he is just for creating one particular window and placing a button on that, if he is taking the 20 lines to be typed, then obviously it will take a lot of time for him to develop a complete application, right? So this is not a way how exactly the things will be working in the industry. You will be having a tool for that. Once you open a tool, then you will be just dragging and dropping the controls, so things will be working fine. Why I have written a hard code means because you will be having a one clarity where exactly means, because of which method values are changing, because of what method the things are working, right? So just to give that particular idea, I have taken a basic example in this particular JBit, right? If you are comfortable, then we will see one application using Eclipse. So we will try to relate how whatever the things we have discussed, so those things can be developed using Eclipse IDE, right? So basically not remember, so means not required to remember all these methods, but when you are writing an examination, obviously they will be uh, asking a question something like this, right? So how to put a button onto a particular control or a JFrame, right? So if a question is asking something like that, if you are using Eclipse, then you will not be comfortable, you will not be remembering what methods you have used, right? So if you have a hard coded, that means if you have typed the things, then you will be having a fair idea, right? So any questions with respect to this example, we can discuss. If not, I'll show you how to work with respect to Eclipse IDE. In the background, I have started Eclipse also. It will take us some time to load up the things. So meanwhile, if you have any questions, we can address those questions. Okay, so let me display application, because in the middle it should not interrupt you. Is with respect to pixels, right? Yeah, it will be taking with respect to pixels, not with respect to micropixels. Any other questions? My Eclipse is almost up and running, so let me open that particular Eclipse file. Okay, so this is a Eclipse IDE. Till now we have written all the programs in our JDit itself. So here I just wanted to show you how exactly the strings can be, so means a basic example. If so means, let us see for the first one example, then later we will discuss. With respect to Eclipse, if you want to work with the strings, you have to follow a small procedure. So remember this particular procedure, whatever we are doing now. Okay, first, so you can go to a file and choose a new, or you will be having an icon for the new over here. So just choose that particular icon, just say Java project. Okay, so it will be asking for a name of your Java project. So let me give us something as swing demo, right? So that is a name that I have given. Hope that is visible. Oh, not visible. One second. Okay, now it will be visible, right? I've not done anything, just clicked on this particular icon, selected a Java project. So it has asked me what should be a name of a project. I have given something called as a swing demo. So let me just say finish, right? So in the left side pan, you can see that there is already a project created with the name whatever you have given. So that is called as a swing demo. So let me open this particular project. So you will be having a SRC folder. So open that particular SRC folder. You have a first. Okay, so I think this I have done the last class, because I have not created this particular first app, right? I think I have given a same name last example. Once again, let me remove this one and I'll create a one more project. Once again. new Java project. Swing demo app. Okay, so finish. Yes, it has created a Swing demo app. See, now in a source folder, I don't have anything. That means once you create a project, so this will be a project structure. Don't worry about what will be there in a JRE library system. You just worry about this particular SRC, right? So initially there will not be any file with respect to SRC. Now what is our intention? Our intention is to develop one Swing application, right? So you can right click on this, also means instead of going in this particular fashion, you can select here, create a new visual class, right? You will be having an option for this. Click on this one. There you will be having a swings option, right? So you can use JFrame because this was what we have extended in our example also. I just choose this one, right? So it is asking for the name. I will say something like a first application, right? So this is name of that particular window file. Just a shape finish. Okay. So if you observe, this is a file name which we have created, first application.java. I didn't write any single line of a code. I didn't write even a single line of a code. It has C. It has imported all the supporting files, so means supporting packages for me by default itself, right? So it has created a class which is called as a first application, and it has already extended my JFrame, right? I hope you can relate with respect to application whatever we have developed, right? So we have created a class called as a Swing demo, and we have extended our JFrame, right? So now these things have been done by my IDE implicitly, right? So no need to write any line of a code manually. Okay. So later I have my main function also, main method also written, right? So don't worry about what are the things that are there with respect to this particular file. In the bottom, you will be having a source and a design. Just a click on a design, it will show you how the things will appear with respect to a code, whatever it has generated, because we didn't write even a single line of a code here, right? So everything has been generated by a system itself. Okay, so let us just cross check how the appearance will look like if you are just saying a Swing application need to be developed. It will take some time because it has to parse everything. See, it has created a window for you, right? So this is your window now, right? On this window you can drop any of the components, right? So have a clarity, so means this is your palette in the sense where you will be having all the controls. Okay, so this is components. Be clear with the terminologies. Components means in the component pan you will be having all the components whatever you have used, right? On components, you so means components are nothing but elements. Okay, basically you will be having a two terms. One is a container and another one is a component. Okay, container means it will be holding all your components, right? Means terms look similar, but there is a lot of a difference between their understanding. So why I'm explaining here is you have a folder called as a containers. So container will be having all these panels, scroll, split, JTool, JLayout, everything, layered pan, all those things, right? All these things are nothing but containers, right? On these containers you can place what is called as components, right? So here you have a components, right? So you can place all these components. Clear? Now if you want, say for example, see, once I take my scroller, so means once I take a mouse on this particular window, it is showing me some grid kind of a view, right? So this is your default JFrame. Okay, so on this JFrame you can place any of these components, right? So now if I am placing a, say for example, you had a button, right? J button was there. Okay, so if I am placing a button over here, right? Is it appearing? Not appearing. Nothing it is showing, right? So what we have to do is on a JFrame, first we need to specify which layout you are using, right? So this is a basic example. Later we will see what are the different layouts and all. For a time being, let me just check this particular drop down box with respect to layout. So let me choose one layout called as group layout, right? So now it is using a group layout. Is it selected? Okay, one second. Group layout has been placed. It's horizontal group. What are the values with respect to horizontal group? What are the values with respect to vertical group? Okay, so it has specified. That means group layout has been created. Right. So now, it is not showing here. Okay. So let us just run this one and cross check how the appearance will look like. Right. So this is our window now. Okay. So by default, it is giving all these values also, like minimize, maximize, cross, everything. Right. So all these things are active itself. I can close a window. Yes. Close a window. Yeah. Okay, so I didn't do anything. So here you have a button. So just click on that button, and wherever you want on this particular window, you just place that particular button. Okay, so there will be some dimension for this, right? So it will be placed at a particular location on this particular frame. We had written something like click mail, right? So now for this particular button, if you want to set up properties, yeah, see, this is my button. Once I click this particular button, here are the properties for that. Okay, so I have a click me written here. I can change the text also, right? So this is the text with respect to that particular button. If you want to edit, here you can go and you can edit over here, possible. If you want to set any other properties, say for example, font. I just wanted to change a font with respect to this, right? I can make this particular font as a bold and I can increase the size to 18. Okay, right? So now this is my button. If you go for the source, you'll be having all the codes generated which reflects that particular values, right? So let us see where it has created that particular button with those values. See, you have a J button, right? That has created object which is called as a button click me. So new J button, whatever the text you have entered, so that has been created in a click me. Okay, so now we have changed the text of that. So it has used a property called as a set font. So under a set font, whatever the font we have used, this is a font we have used, and we have taken font dot bold. That means we have set that particular value to a bold, and we have given a size as a 18, right? So what I meant to say is, means everything it is only generating. What I'm doing is, with respect to this panel, I'm just dragging and dropping the contents and placing on my this particular JFrame, right? So in a previous example, I have shown you this particular hard coding, and now I'm showing you Eclipse can generate those things. No need to worry. And I didn't write even a single line of a code to generate whatever the output we have seen previously, right? If I want to run, I just need to play this particular button. So, oh, I didn't save the file, right? Make sure you save the file, then only the output will be reflected. Okay, so I didn't write any actions with respect to this, so nothing has been displayed as for now, right? So in the later classes, we will see how to handle the events with respect to this particular button. Here with the things, Both the ways I'm showing you. If you are comfortable, that means if anybody is facing any issues with respect to Eclipse, so you can go with respect to JEdit just to understand the basic things, right? So as per your syllabus, we don't have a, so means we don't have a sophisticated full-fledged application need to be developed. So we just need to give an introduction with respect to what is a swing, and what is a AWT, and what are the different containers we have, and what are the different uh, components we have, and we need to discuss what is called as event handling in a swing. That means if you are clicking on a button, how the actions will be performed. So those aspects, right? Let me just summarize what are the things we have discussed now. Then if you have any questions, you can post those questions. Fine. Now, basic intention of a swing was to develop window-based applications, right? So this particular window-based applications can be created by extending JFrames, right, or any of the frames, right? Done. So you have a different, that means once you want to put any controls or any elements onto your JFrame, first we have to create that particular window first. So then after creating a window, you have to place the elements. While placing the element, you need to specify the layout in the sense in which order I want to place the component, right? So if I want to give an example, in the layout, if I check, you have these many different layouts. So everywhere it is showing us some icon, right? So if I'm using a flow layout, this is how the components will be placed. If I'm using a border layout, so this is how the components will be placed. In a later section, we will take further examples and see what some how exactly the things will be different. Basically, what a layout specifies how the components need to be placed. Okay, so in this particular example, I have used a group layout. So group layout means if you are choosing another element, it will give you a provision where you wanted to place that particular element. See, you can place here, right? I can write something like new button. No need to write a single line of a code. Everything will be generated automatically for you, right? So now if I'm using some other layout, so in this example I have not used any other layout. So means if you are creating one more layout, see, for example, if I'm doing with the border layout, so it will be placing the components in this particular fashion, right? So top, bottom, left, right, middle, right? So in those particular uh, order you can place the components. We will see later in a later examples, we will see how to use the different layouts also. So intention of this example was just to give you an introduction and an overview of how exactly the swings can be used, right? In again, I'm telling you, you can go with either Eclipse or with a JEdit or a Notepad. Okay, so if you are going with a JEdit and a Notepad, you have to write the instructions manually. If you are going with Eclipse, you have a components. You can just drag and drop those components and work with things, right? So while writing the answers in examination, if a question is asked, make sure that you are not giving a description like in Eclipse, go to file, select a new, then everything will be generated. Don't write those things. Question will be asked like how can you they will be giving you one particular output. I'm just giving an example. Say for example, they might have given this particular output, right? So this screenshot they might have given, they might tell you to write a program, swings program, to display a output something like this, right? So in that situation you have to write the things, right? So how I wrote with respect to a JEdit editor, you have to write a program should be there. Don't write instructions like select a file, go to new project, all those things, right? So that is, that is not going to fetch you a marks, right? So marks will be given for the methods, for the values which you have used, and the way how you have created objects, and how you have, so means where, what are the contents you put in the constructor, how you are calling that particular constructor. Based on that, marks will be given. Clear with a basic idea what exactly is a swing and how you are using the swings, means basic methods of a swings. If no questions, we will proceed with a few slides in the PPT. Let us just cross check what are the things that have been there and what are the theoretical aspects that we need to remember for the examination point of view. Shall we? Okay. So before we see the points in that particular PPT, I think nobody is visible, right? Yeah. Does anybody know what is the MVC? This is nothing but a MVC, right? So why I'm specifying this MVC now means when you are developing an application, it is recommended to use any architecture for your development. Okay. So what is the MVC is? MVC is nothing but one of the architecture for a developing application, right? So view means whatever the UI components you will be seeing. So those are nothing but the views, right? So controller means these are what I can say is parameters, right? Which will be taking a values from a model to view, right? So in a model, you will be having a something called as business logic, right? So what action need to be performed, right? So that particular action will be there in a model. Okay, in a controller you will be having a objects, right, or the controllers. We will be generally calling it as the controllers. The responsibility of those controllers is to fill this particular GUI or to make this particular GUI interactive based on a business logic whatever you are going to write, right? So this will carry the info, or this will control the info. That is the reason why it is given as a controller. Okay. So what I mean to say is basically when you are developing an application, you will be using any of the architecture, and one of our architecture is a model view controller. What is the purpose of this particular architecture? Why you are telling these things now? Purpose is I just wanted to keep everything at a different places. Why I want to keep everything in a different places means when I want to change anything with respect to GUI, I have to go to a view only. I should not go to a model. I should not worry about a controller, right? If I want to go with some business logic need to be changed, that means after clicking some button, before I was going to some xyz file, that means a xyz page. Now I need to go with the abc page, right? I have changed some logic in the background. When I have changed the logic in the background, I should not worry about a GUI. I should directly go to that particular logic, and you should be in a position to change that particular logic for us, right? So this is the basic intention why we will be separating this particular GUI and a business logic, right? So in a PPTs, a small description was given with respect to MVC, just to give you an introduction about this particular architecture, right? We are not going to use this particular model view controller for developing application. I just gave you an idea what is a MVC. Was that clear? Okay. Let us see what are the points that are there with respect to a PPT. I mean, just to cross check whether we have missed any of the topics to be discussed or what. Okay, so same thing with respect to MVC connection. So no need to detail, no need to go in detail with respect to these things, right? So V stands for a view, C stands for a controller, M stands for the model, right? Okay. So as I already told you, you have a two classification or two words that we need to remember. One is your components and another one is containers. Okay. Component is an independent visual control. That means whatever the buttons, whatever the elements you will be placing on that particular window, right? So those are nothing but components. Okay. A container is a special type of a component that holds a group of components, right? So basically this is a container. Container will hold a component, right? So a container can also hold other containers also. You can have a one container on another container. We will see what is the purpose of going with respect to a container in a container at all, right? So now coming to a components, When I say components, you should get an imagination like button, edit text, some elements, right? Radio button, checkbox, drop down list. All those things are nothing but components. Okay. Swing components are derived from the J component class, which inherits AWT classes container and a component. Okay. In a single line, if I want to say, keep in mind that all the components have came from your AWT classes, most of components, most of the components, right? So they are built on and are compatible with AWT component. Basically they have came from AWT itself, so they will be comfortable with respect to it, right? So in a broad way, your swings define a two types of a container. Okay, one is a top level container, and you have another category, second type of containers supported by a swing. So means especially swing, right? So whatever the first category you are seeing, so these things are basically came from a AWT, right? They inherit the AWT classes component and a container. They do not inherit J component, right? So basically they came from a AWT classes. Okay, so you have a second type which are inherited from a J component, right? So when you come across a J component, you think that they are coming from a swing concept, right? So layout manager, this we will be discussing in the next class, right? So in our application we have used a group layout. So yeah, you have a grid layout, grid bag layout, box layout, right? So each layout will be helping your components to be placed in a particular fashion, right? So these are the different categories. We will take a one application, we will see how this particular layout will differ, and we will also see how the actions can be handled, right? So click event, if I'm clicking on a button, how it will be listening to that particular event and all. So we will be discussing all those things in the next class. And one more request from my side. This is introduction to a swing. Whatever the application we have seen in this particular class, if you are writing or if you are practicing the things using a JEdit, I'll be sharing that particular some means I'll be as usual I'll be sharing this particular recording. Go through the recording, try to do that particular application in a JEdit. If you have a Eclipse or NetBeans, you can try application in that particular Eclipse or NetBeans also. Intention is be clear with whatever the basics we have discussed. Later when we are means in a next class, I'll try to take the things in a JEdit itself, because I'll be comfortable in explaining a few methods. If you are going with Eclipse or NetBeans, we cannot means in detail we cannot discuss a few methods, because automatically those instructions will be created in the background, right? So we will keep the things restricted to a notepad, right? We will go with the JEdit itself. Once we are comfortable with all the methods and all, we will take up a one application and we will see how means in how better fashion we can do the things using Eclipse or NetBeans. If you don't have a questions, you can leave the session. Thanks for your time, and thanks for making a session an interactive one.